What is going on, everybody? My name's Chris. Welcome to Bourbinsane. We are back with a really good bourbon today. Really excited about this. So glad I was able to get my hands on a bottle of this. Michter's 10-year bourbon. This is a good one. When I first started into whiskey, first started into bourbon, this was my unicorn bottle. It was a gorgeous looking bottle. Never ever could find one, of course, locally. And it was one I always wanted to try. Always needed to get my hands on. I had one sample of the 2017 and I really enjoyed it. And none of the 2018, wasn't able to get any, but this year, 2019, I had some help acquiring this bottle. Have to give a special thank you to my patron, Christopher David, for help getting this bottle. Also, Rob, who we've talked back and forth on some social media platforms. Thank you so much for your help acquiring the bottle as well. I am really excited to get into this whiskey, guys. As you can see, I've had a couple pours of this. This is a good bottle. I'm going to come out by saying that right now. Let me just start out by saying I have never had a bad Michter's product. I love their rye. The small batch bourbon is very solid. Sour mash is good. This 10-year is something really special. And then I just picked up a barrel strength rye, which I'm going to be including in my cast strength rye head-to-head coming up very soon. Keep an eye out on that. Let's talk Michter's a little bit. Michter's recently had a little bit of turnover at the top. So, their previous master distiller, Pam Heilman, she just stepped down from Michter's being the master distiller, and now Dan McKee is going to be taking over. This is actually his first release from Michter's since becoming the master distiller at Michter's. So, pretty exciting. It's a lot to live up to, and it's your first release. This bottle specifically is 10-year age dated. They don't say what the mash bill is, so we really don't know. They are all single barrel, these 10-year expressions are, so each bottle is going to taste a little different, each barrel is going to taste a little different. Rumor has it, though, with this year's release, they actually are picking from some 12 and 13-year-old barrels to make the 10-year expressions, and the reason they don't put the 12 and 13-year ages on the label is just because it'd be a nightmare for printing new labels for everything and changing the whole marketing campaign. I've heard that from a couple different people, so I think it's probably true. When I get into the notes on this, you'll see some of those older notes coming through, I think. So this is 94.4 proof, so a very good proof point, actually, for this bourbon. Anywhere around that 95 is really nice. Obviously, I tend to lean towards higher proof stuff in general, just being the person I am now with whiskey, but I like this proof point of this bottle. Gorgeous looking bottle. Let's look at the color first on this. Actually quite dark. I mean, it really is a nice medium caramel color on this. No real legs sticking to the glass at all, but I mean, this isn't non-chill filtered. I wouldn't expect that too much from this. But a good-looking bourbon, nonetheless. Let's go into the nose, guys. First thing that hits me right in the nose is what I describe as kind of a dusty oak note. So, I get this note a lot on the I.W. Harper 15. Again, another very aged bourbon, 15-year-old. It's almost a musty wood, dusty wood note. There's another predominant note in this, especially on the palate, but on the nose that comes through, and I can't take credit for this, but I definitely agree with the tasting note. So one of my new patrons, Carl Ivy, he just got this bottle as well, and he tried a pour of it the other day when I told him that I had recently gotten a bottle. And the note he picked up was caramel corn. It's like a maple syrup, but man, does it work well in liquid form. It really does. This has a really nice balance of sweetness with that dusty older wood note, though, for sure. It smells great. Let's give it a taste here, guys. Cheers. That's really good. This is my first pour of the day, first drink of the day, so my tongue has to acclimate a little bit to it. But initially, right up front, I'm still getting that maple syrup flavor. I mean, it's not so much the consistency or that mouthfeel you'll get with maple syrup or some bourbons that are heavy maple syrup flavor, but it's a little bit thin, but I'd expect that at 95 proof only compared to some other stuff. But maple syrup is definitely forward for me on this. The wood definitely comes through on the palate as well. The wood note's there, but not as much as on the nose to me. I think it takes a back seat on the palate. This bourbon has a very nice balance of sweetness and the bitter wood tannins you want in your bourbon, you know, from that charred barrel. It still smells pretty good aged on the nose, though. Toffee notes. Actually, very rich flavors coming through. I mean, nice toffee, caramel toffee notes. It's really good. It's really good, guys. It's just so good. It's layered. It's just a layered whiskey to me. I mean, it starts with a little bit of that sweetness right up front, which I get a lot of times when I'm drinking. The finish hits you with those wood notes. The wood tannins, a little bit of that charred barrel that comes in at the end of the palate. Finish is about medium, so it's not an overly long finish, but a very pleasant pour. So well rounded. I'm amazed at the amount of rich, bold flavors they're getting out of this bottle. I mean, I'm guessing the age definitely does help that, but it seems like almost like the proof is amplified a little bit. Maybe it's just the flavors that are going across the palate, but it seems like I kind of alluded to like a barrel proof whiskey. How, you know, with barrel proof whiskeys, everything's kind of amplified a little bit. It gives you, I guess, a more full experience of the notes you're looking for in your whiskey. And I feel like that's really coming through on this bottle. I don't know what it is. Whatever they did well with this single barrel specifically, it's working very well in the bottle. So well balanced. I mean, right when you feel like there's going to be too much oak on the back of the tongue, it comes back on your next sip with that nice sweetness right up front. Candy sweetness. It's a wonderful bottle and a wonderful pour. I'm going to be very curious to see how this opens up as the bottle gets drank down a little bit more. But I am absolutely a fan of this. When we push 110, I mean, retail on this is like $130 for this bottle. Luckily, I was able to get it for $110. Different parts of the country get better rates than Michigan does, which we haven't even seen this bottle yet. So we're talking like serious whiskey, serious money at that price. So this is 2 Elijah Craig barrel proofs. If we're talking apples to oranges, you know, this is, for me, as I mentioned, for me personally, it was a unicorn bottle for me. Something I always wanted to get, and I'm so fortunate, so glad I'm able to, and I love this bourbon. It's going to be hard for me to keep this bottle around. I really think so. So fortunate to have this, and so glad I was able to try it for myself and review it for you guys. So now is the time that these bottles are starting to hit the market. If you can get your hands on one of these bottles, and $110 price range, I mean up to $130. I wouldn't go much over $130. It's a good bottle, but like I said, when we're talking into the hundreds at all, it gets really tough to recommend whiskey. And this is going to be one you kind of have to have an in with someone, I feel like, to be able to get a bottle. Unless you're in certain parts of the country where stuff just sits on the shelves all the time, which that's not me. I wish it was. But if you can get your hands on this and you're okay spending a good chunk of change like that, pick it up, because if it's anything like this single barrel, you are not going to be disappointed at all. This really delivered for me. Any bourbon fan, any whiskey fan in general, you can appreciate this bourbon right here. Well balanced. Just complex enough to keep you interested the whole pour, evolves in your glass. It's a great whiskey. Thank you guys so much for watching this review today. If you like these types of videos, these higher end, tougher to find bottles, let me know. Would you rather I review stuff that's harder to find, or would you rather I do everyday budget options like my budget series I did? I have to give a special thank you to my newest patrons who just joined, Carl Ivy, the Linux Cat, and David Haddon. Thank you guys so much for joining the Bourbinsane family. If you guys want to support the channel too, check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/bourbinsane. Still have challenge coins available, guys, if you are interested in picking those up as well. Email me, bourbinsane@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the end of this review today. Go find yourself a Michter's. It will not disappoint. Stay insane, guys.